Don't forget to stick around through the end of the video for information on our Arrive Serpentor Arrive giveaway. He got his name from his father, Barton Blaze, and his curse from his mother, Naomi Cale, both friends and co-stars with the motorcycle stunt performer Crash Simpson, but one carried quite the family history and secret. Jonathan, Johnny Blaze, saw his beloved mother abandon him at a young age, but for seemingly altruistic reasons, as she carried an ancient curse that followed the Cale bloodline, which caused a firstborn to, when in the presence of evil or darkness, transform into a spirit of vengeance, transform into the Ghost Rider. Despite his mother's best intentions, and due to a bit of fate and some guile at the hands of the demon Mephisto, Johnny still became a Ghost Rider. He still became the Spirit of Vengeance. When transformed into the leather and spike-clad biker with a flaming skull head swinging a mythical chain around, it serves as a sort of shared space with the spirit or demon Zarathos. Zarathos? Johnny, when in control, is given access to myriad superhuman powers and abilities, to name a few: strength, durability, agility, stamina, the ability to use and project hellfire, one of the most famous being his penance stare. Should one stare into Ghost Rider's eyes, they will feel and see every and any bit of pain they ever caused another. The trauma and pain are said to be unbearable. So I will leave it up to you in deciding to look deeply into the eyes of the most recent release from Hasbro or not. But I say, let's give it a go. Hey everyone, my name is Jonathan, aka JK of JK Collects, and remember, I'll be posting new videos almost daily as we get new adds to the collection. If that sounds of interest to you, please click that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. It would really help out the channel, and it truly does mean a lot to me personally. In this episode, we are taking a closer look at the Hasbro Marvel Legends 6-inch scale Ghost Rider. Okay everyone, and welcome back. There it is, the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider, brand new from Marvel Legends. Just came in, just got it today, so very excited to be able to break into this one because what a cool looking figure, right? And it's on the blister, the bubble pack. So nice to see that retro look to it, and gosh, just the artwork on this thing. But let's start from the back as usual, and there we go. We've got good old Ghost Rider with flames everywhere, as it should be. There's a nice comic book depiction right there with the flaming skull. Got flames coming out right there, the fingertip. I mean, just commanding that hellfire, like we said. It's just fantastic. And there's a little ink drawing, a little pin of what we're coming with, right? So no rendering, just a little drawing, which is nice to see, just that little hand drawing of there of what the character looks like, the different hands and different pieces that we'll be looking at right there, and just a little bit in multiple languages about Mr. Blaze, the Ghost Rider itself. And there we go. So, you know, just usual, this is that blister pack, so not really much to go with on the side view, so all we can do is just break right into this thing. And now that I have this more safe style, let's see if we can do this adventure together. If not, and if it takes too long, we may not ever venture down that one again. So there we go. Let's see if we can safely cut along the edge. It's good to have a sharp blade for this, but subsequently be very careful in dealing with a sharp or any blade. You definitely don't want to underestimate what it's capable of, and I definitely don't want anybody out there getting hurt just trying to open up a figure. These figures are great, but none of them are worth bodily harm. Okay, so just be very careful cutting along the bottom here just to get these bits. And I think I've probably just damaged my brochure, unfortunately. And it's not quite enough. Okay, so let's come up the side here, as I normally do. Along that. Thank you for your patience as we carefully dissect a plastic packaging. Alright, and that should just about, it almost released the bottom. I've got a little bit left right here. So, it's good to just do it and then just test every now and then, because you don't want to take a risk of causing any damage. There is my little brochure, my lovely pamphlet, and I will always remember that this was the Ghost Rider because I've damaged it. Oh no, not the pamphlet. Whatever will I do? So let's pull out the tray. Okay, so empty packaging, and I'll set that to the side as usual. And I like that this little piece came out with it, so very cool. I did manage to cut a little line down it, so be very careful with that. with any of the wrappings, any of the papers, if you want to keep them as clean and good and pristine as possible. If you are cutting through that plastic, be very careful. Now, I know some not concerned about it. They'll just rip right through it. Me, I like to have the option of being able to put it as a display, like it's fresh in the store. Okay, so there we go. Empty tray. We pulled our parts out, and now it's time to take a look at those parts and stop listening to me ramble as we fill in some time. Okay, first and foremost, boom. There's our mystical chain. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll bring the lights down just a little bit because I don't want to wash things out too much, but look at this thing. Okay, so this does that awesome plastic transition thing, right? So as you can see, huge. I mean, this is starting it off on an amazing foot, because look at this. So it starts off, I mean, I say plastic transition, but like just paint transition basically, because you can see that it is still that same orange plastic underneath, but it starts with the silver, and obviously some of it has already chipped off. So there's an opportunity on that on the handle. Hopefully yours won't be that way if you do get a hold of one of these. But then the silver just fades as it goes up. You see that? And they did an excellent job, I think, with that fade, because there's points to where you can see orange starting to show through. Less and less silver, orange in the center, and then it just transitions all the way to this translucent orange. But still, we do have a blend, right? Because it blends into this darker color, from the light orange to the darker orange to the almost reddish of the flame. I personally think they did a fantastic job with this, with the silver paint, despite the chips. But then on down to this, the handle, and it's the flexible, so it's got a little bit of a give to it. If only there was a miraculous way to have like a really thin wire in there, right, that you could not really see, but was just inside this plastic. I mean, I know that's asking a lot, but how cool would it be to be able to flex and shape this thing? Because, I mean, it's such a pivotal, important weapon of his. But there we go. So that check one already off to a fantastic start. And then, of course, I'm a sucker for these, right? So the little flame effects, I love these things. Can we get a little bit of focus, or do I need to? Let's shift it over to good old manual and do it ourselves. Okay, so there we go. A couple flame effects, right? Just to kind of add a little bit more of him commanding that hellfire. So these are practically identical. So let's just take a closer look at one of them. So it is that rubberized plastic, that translucent. This has more of a kind of a frosted, I want to say, matte-ish look to it than the chain. As you can see, the chain has a very glossy, shiny look, and this is a little bit more matted look, which is interesting because this is the only flame that comes with him that has this finish to it, right? Still very awesome, very flexible. I appreciate that because it's going to give a lot of opportunity in places to put it, right? It obviously is very small, so it looks like it's wrist, but this could easily be pulled around to be put on like an ankle or anything else. Okay. Speaking of the difference in flame effect finishes, here are the spare hands, right? So the skeletal hands that have the fire coming off of them. I mean, how cool are these? Look at this. Look at how incredible these are with that just intermingled into it. And this, it truly is, because, all right, so these are similar. They're just different styles, right? This one's a bit of a grip for the chain. This one's an open, kind of semi-neutral open hand, almost like it's ready to fling some fire, right? Or just about to do it. But let's take a look at this one because it's a little bit more open. We can see. So this, the bone part, is its own piece of plastic that's infused in there. Do you see that? So that is very cool, right? So we've got solid plastic for this joint infused into this clear plastic, and then you can almost see like we've got like paint going on up here. It's just really neat how they did that. I mean, yes, it does. They kind of had to do it to make it where the joint worked, I guess, but how neat is that? It just kind of adds to it, right? It looks like some of the hand is still showing through underneath despite the flame taking over. And then the flame is a lot more of the shinier look, right? So down here, a little bit, kind of still a little frosted, but ultimately has that shiny appearance to it, more so than this has, right? So I would say, personally, it seems like it leans more on the finish of that one. Hopefully you'll agree. Now, when they're side by side, this looks a little bit more matte. This then makes it look a little bit more shiny. So very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. And now we move on to the head. The Johnny Blaze, I hate to say flame on head, but this is where he's transitioning over. You know, maybe he's in darkness, maybe he's in the presence of evil, or maybe this is the more recent where he has the ability to just do it at will, right? So Will is striking, and I mean, just look at this thing. I am in awe at what they have done with this figure, right? So the head, first off, let's just take a look at the hair, right? So we've got normal hair painted in there, right? The blonde, that Johnny Blaze blonde, and then transitioning into the flames. And there's just such random spots where you still see hair shining through, but then you've got a little river of fire running through that, a little bit peeking through there, and then some more. Just really cool how it's channeling through there. Mr. Heat Miser himself, right? Just coming through. And this is more of that glossy flame, very well sculpted. And I love the transition of because the blonde adds to the flame. As you see, blonde, the lighter yellow goes to the orange, which goes to the reddish orange. It's just fantastic. Okay, so I digress from that. Let's look at the face. Also extremely well done, in my opinion. You may or may not agree with that. Let's get some focus working for us. You'll see if we can get it a little bit closer. There we go. Look at that. So the red just encircling the eyes, right? Building that, shifting to that kind of partnership or shared space, if you will. And it's just so cool. The eyes are just glazed over red. There's a little bit of pink in there, and you can almost see a pupil or an iris, and it's very cool. And then a little bit of the grimace, the sculpted in there, in the forehead, and the lines coming down for the eyebrows. The eyebrows seem to be very well painted on there. A light brown without going too blonde, which I like having the brown because it helps add just a little bit more to the face, a little bit more depth. If it was blonde, it would have been a little bit too light, I think, and they probably would have gotten lost or seemed like an odd line in there. And then just the grimace of the teeth and everything, the way that all this is shaped. I would say this face is very well sculpted, despite it being like a freeze frame of an action. So there we go. Excellent. Happy to see that. And now let's move on to the Ghost Rider himself. And I just call him that because he's in full Ghost Rider form, right? He's got the skull going on here. And look at this. The jaw articulates. I know that is such a simple thing and perhaps a silly thing to be excited about, but being a lover of Halloween, being someone who loves skeletons and the like and all that stuff, okay, so we've got a skull going on here, and it's a very well sculpted skull. We even have depth in the eye sockets, right? So you can see it goes in there, and pretty deep, right? Deeper than you normally see, even when there's depth in an eye socket that's been sculpted. And that depth turns into an orangish flame, a fire effect, right? So very cool. I mean, it's just paint in there, but still, it's sculpted. It may be hard to see through the camera. Maybe that angle kind of shows it. It goes very far into there, which you don't normally see. But then when they have it, it's not just black or just a dark gray. It is flames. So how cool is that? But then the jaw, it moves. And that's just such a simple thing, but such a fantastic thing to have because it can add so much character so easily. Now, with this being a skull, and you know what, let me take a moment and highlight the hair. Yet again, we've got fantastically sculpted flame hair that goes very smoothly from that yellowish to orange to the reddish. And it's not any type of reuse, right? Because the skull is smaller than the face, the head. It's not just a repaint of this hair where they didn't put any blonde on there. It is totally its own flames, which I greatly appreciate. They probably could have gotten away with just laying that over it and having it painted, but they didn't. They took that little bit of extra step, and you have a full skull with that. Okay, but with this being a skull and having such openness, look at this flexibility. Look at that side to side. It's very curious. And hey, what are you doing? Huh? So that is excellent. Up and down, yeah. Up is very far past straightforward, and then down also very good, right? So we've got a literal jawbone, mandible, to basically to neck. Doesn't even reach the chest. But of course, we've got to have full-on exorcism. I mean, come on. It's Ghost Rider. He's got to be able to do it. But in spinning it around, just check out the neck. if you haven't already been looking at it. So you've got the spinal column, the neck just showing through there, surrounded by the cast plastic translucent flames, still doing that transition, just fantastic. It is fixed in place, so it doesn't travel with the head, but it doesn't need to. I mean, look at this head movement. Okay, moving on to the shoulders. You know, I am actually kind of surprised to see that there is not a butterfly right there, despite it being very dark and hard to see, but it does have good rotation. Let's see how that bicep tricep does. Yeah, that bicep tricep is excellent in there. See that? That's very good. It does have the line, so the more you turn it, the more it does break that line potentially for posing, but you know, I'll let you decide how important that will be to you when posing. Double elbow, right? And it does have pins. No big deal, right? It's kind of like pin or pinless, doesn't really matter. It works great for realism when you're dealing with like something without a sleeve, but when you've got a sleeve or a costume that goes over it, it kind of doesn't really matter. But there we go. Excellent flexibility on it. Goes all the way down. We do not have forearm rotation, but we do have good wrist rotation, and we have forward and backward on that one. And this one is a bit of like a trigger finger, a weapon hand, even though it doesn't come with any kind of handgun or anything like that. It could borrow someone else's, okay? And then the other arm has that same functionality and same type of hand, so it still has that same trigger finger, and then the same wrist rotation and the forward and backward, which is interesting with it being that instead of being an up and down, it's a forward and backward, but you know, they made the decision. And as you can see, we've got good mid-torso. So it's got that kind of U thing going on that we see pretty frequently, which gives it an excellent, pretty good back flexibility, but amazing forward. Look at that. So the crunch right there is very good. And this one has, let's see, 1, 2, 3 spots where it basically kind of clicks into shape. It doesn't really do a loud click like some have. And it does, I mean, it does have pretty free range in between the clicks, but once it gets close to one of those, it does pop into place. So still very cool. Helps with posing and things like that. We do have waist rotation or hip rotation right here, and it's just even flat across right there. So we don't have any kind of like real gap that shows up because this isn't that flexible cast rubbery plastic that we see, but it does create just that little platform thing right there. So, you know, I guess you take one to leave another, right? So it's totally fun because it does have that great rotation, and then with this flexibility, there's a lot of great posing that can happen with this one. And then the legs, flexibility, you know, for Ghost Rider, supposedly having that superhuman agility, you would think they would have spent some time making sure he could at least do a ghost split, right? But, I mean, that's as far as it goes. These don't do the pull down or anything like that. That's as far as we're dealing with, which makes me wonder if these are probably maybe a reuse, some of the leg. I'm not sure. I don't have enough figures to say or enough experience with other figures, but you know what? Hey, in time, we'll get there. And then forward kick, pretty good, right? So pretty lateral, like a 90 degree. The back, not too bad. Not too much farther than what a normal human would do if they were getting ready to haul off and punt a ball or something, right? Charlie Brown. And it doesn't really create too much of a gap right there, even when it goes back. Some of them will let it go back, but it creates a very, very odd and obvious gap. Upper thigh rotation, pretty good, but we've got this little flare right here of the pants that as that swings around, you know, it kind of pokes out a little bit more, but it doesn't create too much of a flat spot. You see, it doesn't stick out too far. The rest of the pant, the leg kind of stays with it. The crease flips around and loses that line right there, but really not a big deal for the ability that it gives and the flexibility that this has. Look at that. There's that agility, right? So he may not be able to do a split, but gosh, he can sure limber up for that ghost run, right? So very good there with that double knee. There's no calf rotation, despite having an excellent spot for a boot line, right? It would hide it very well, but no matter how hard I turn, it doesn't want to rotate, and sometimes you just got to give up before you damage something. Now backward, that is excellent. Nice little rocket kick going on there. And then forward with the foot, also very good, right? Especially with a boot. A lot of time we'll see the boot cause some interference and prevent the foot from doing that. But then we also have the good old breaker. So very good. And then same thing on the other side. Same flexibility, same capability and all that. And then I love this little just plastic chain. It's just cast in that gray plastic, just kind of sitting over his shoulder. It does have the ability to kind of float around, and it does float around very easily, but it also sets in place very well, right? And it doesn't just kind of fly. You can wiggle it, and it just kind of stays in place. Paint apps. All right, so the skull, aside from the teeth, cast in that plastic. So we got white teeth painted on there, and they are painted on fairly well. A little bit extra down on the jaw right there. I don't know if you can see it. It might be a little too... Yeah, there we go. You can kind of see it right there. But still very well done. And some of the silver on the collar right there. We've got a little bit of sloppiness on the line on that. And this kind of breaks because of the joint. You see right there? We lose a little bit of that line coming through of the coat, the jacket sleeve. Would have been nice to maybe see something making these little buttons kind of pop a little bit. You know, even if they're supposed to be black, just something to kind of highlight them. Maybe a different finish of black, right? And these, it would have been great if those could have been gray, but you know, we can only ask for so much because they were either going to be painted gray, which could easily pop off, or you'd have gray on the inside here. So it's again, take one to leave the other. And then the belt, speaking of one of those areas where we had that, the belt seems to be painted fairly well for the silver, or you know what, it may be cast in that silver plastic. Actually, it looks like it might be, because I do not... Yeah, you know what, it is, because it is this piece right here that we get the platform on. You see the silver shines through right there. At first I was looking at it at this angle and it looks like it's just the gray, but it's not. So the belt piece is its own, which is good for concern on paint transfer or anything like that. And then when we go back, you still have the line for the jacket, and the texture stays. So that's one of those things that's always good to see. It doesn't just turn into a blank spot. And that's really it for paint apps. So there's a little bit on the buckles down here as we go down on the boots, but that's kind of it. I mean, there's a buckle down here that could have used it, sure. That would have been nice to see that. If you're going to do it here, do it all the way down here. But yeah, I like that this little strap kind of pokes out a little bit. Just an extra little thing. It's not flexible, it's hard, but it pokes out. So that's it. That's our Ghost Rider. Let's see how he stands on his own. Will he or won't he? Yep, there we go. Pretty easy without a lot of convincing. There is our Ghost Rider. Let's tilt the camera down, take a little bit closer look. Yep. And we'll be back with some 360s. Thanks. Alright, and there he is, our Marvel Legends 6-inch scale Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider. Now you may be asking, why is one hand gloved and the other one the skeleton hand? And that's because the other skeleton hand actually did not do a very good job of gripping the chain. And the weight of the chain does make it a little bit challenging even for the gloved hand to hold it without causing the wrist to rotate. So hopefully that is only something that I will experience and you won't see it, but I'm not going to say that that is enough to be a detriment to say don't get this figure. I'm going to say absolutely 100% pick this one up if you get a chance. If you're not a Ghost Rider fan, that's totally fine. I appreciate you checking it out, but definitely pick this up, and I hope you have enjoyed this. Thank you. Hey everyone, we are currently running our Arrive Serpentor Arrive giveaway, where we are giving away one Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified Serpentor with Air Chariot. All you have to do is comment on this video to be entered to win. Each video during the giveaway period will have a secret keyword shared within the video, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Because the first person to comment that keyword gets pinned to the top of the comments and gets 2 entries for that video. A special thank you goes out to all of you for making it possible for us to be able to already start giving back. Well, that about does it. Thank you for checking us out and for joining us on this collecting journey as always. Look for new videos almost daily as we get new adds to the collection, and if you got something from today's episode and you haven't already done so, please subscribe and click that like button. Now, if you'd like to see some more videos, there are a couple of quick links on your screen right now for you to check out. But no matter what, as always, thank you for taking the time today. And remember, we are all in this collecting world together. Let's look out for each other. Thanks.